Hello, Snips.
Master?
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. This will be my full Ahsoka Episode 4 video. There were so many Star Wars Easter eggs and references, paying off a bunch of long-running fan theories too. Probably one of the best episodes of the season so far. So we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. And careful for spoilers if you haven't seen the episode yet, because there were a lot of really big payoffs that they had in this episode. We'll start at the beginning of the episode, work our way through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs and WTF moments. But the episode title was Fallen Jedi, which is a reference to both Anakin Skywalker, because obviously he appears during the episode, not a dry eye in the house at the end of that episode either.
Anakin.
The title is also meant to be a reference to Baylan's Skoll, because both of them, like Baylan's Skoll is also a fallen Jedi like Anakin Skywalker who turned to the dark side. Anakin became a Sith, became Darth Vader, but Baylan's Skoll, even though he turned to the dark side, did not become Sith. That's why his lightsaber is orange and not full Sith red. They haven't completely answered that question, but we're only halfway through the series, and like we just teased the world between worlds, Anakin Skywalker appearing, and he's not a Force ghost. Like, this is not Force ghost Anakin, this is a real version of Anakin, like he's appearing to her and he's alive. So it's not like they were going to answer every single question at episode 4. Most of the fight, though, that he has with Ahsoka, he taunts her with the memory of Anakin Skywalker, Order 66, and Darth Vader.
Everyone in the Order knew Anakin Skywalker. Few would live to see what he became.
I know there'll be a lot of questions about what this grand plan he has, like what is this better future that he's trying to use Thrawn for? Like, even though he says that the war is inevitable and all its collateral damage is bad, but it's necessary for a better future, a lot of people wondering what is that better future? Don't worry, we'll get into that during that part of the episode. The actual opening scene starts a little bit different, barely with any sound, like it's almost a completely silent scene inside the ship with the sounds of the electrical systems and Hu Yang trying to fix their comms. They're trying to get Hera on the comm. Obviously, they eventually do wind up getting her. Hu Yang tries to rewire the ship. She references Fulcrum again, Home 1. Remember, Home 1 is just the name of the New Republic fleet ship, which is a Mon Calamari capital ship, the same one from the original trilogy. Like, that's the same briefing room that we saw during Return of the Jedi. Fulcrum was Ahsoka's position inside the rebellion, going back to before the original trilogy started. Like, she served as the point of communication between the rebel cells, the fulcrum between all the different rebel cells. They said that the whole running plotline was Sabine not being able to destroy the map when Ahsoka tells her, look, like, we might not actually be able to save Ezra. Are you prepared to destroy the map to prevent Thrawn from coming back in this entire war against the New Republic? We don't want to have another Star War. Pretty easy to assume that she was going to go left, like not going to be able to destroy the map. I think they were trying to tease that in earlier episodes where she also did not listen to Ahsoka and took off with the map to try and discover what was really going on. She also drops a very big Easter egg for that original Thrawn trilogy of books, Heir to the Empire.
Better that than allowing Thrawn's return as heir to the Empire.
He said it! He said it! Baylan's Skoll then sends Shin, Hati, and Marrok to stop Ahsoka and Sabine from stopping their process of finishing the hyperspace ring and jumping to the other galaxy. He's not necessarily worried about killing Ahsoka and Sabine, only delaying them long enough to get their hyperspace coordinates and complete their mission. That's why at the end, he doesn't want to kill Sabine. He tries to turn her to the dark side. They kind of referenced this in the last episode where he said he was regretful at the idea that he might have to kill Ahsoka. Like, there's so few Jedi out there, do we really need to kill them all? That's because he would rather turn them if they can be turned, but he's not afraid to kill them if he needs to. But that's why Baylan says that he's not afraid of what will happen to Morgan, because she kind of taunts him like, are you afraid of Ahsoka and Sabine? Like, no, he's not afraid. He's just cautious because he knows about Ahsoka's skills as a former Jedi. When Ahsoka's giving Sabine that talk about making the harder choices, you notice that they frame the shot so that you can see her pauldron that has the space whale on it, which is meant to be a reference to her finding Ezra Bridger because the space whales are so critical to this. When she talks about doing what's right regardless of personal feelings, this is also a really big teaser for what happens later with her going to the world between worlds and seeing Anakin Skywalker in the flesh again. The line is meant to reference a couple different things. Her whole reason for leaving the Jedi Order, like trying to do the right thing, even if it goes against her personal feelings, because she did want to stay with Anakin Skywalker, but felt like it was the wrong thing to do, staying in the Jedi Order. But the other foreshadowing here is the idea that she could use the power of the world between worlds to literally pull Anakin Skywalker through time, completely changing the past so that he never becomes Darth Vader and never joined the Emperor, and he's still alive in present day.
I can stop Kanan from dying.
You can't save your master, and I can't save mine.
Talking about Jedi time travel, the world between worlds was a theory that a lot of us had when they first started dropping the Ahsoka trailers, and they were showing the map here. Now, they hadn't explained exactly what was going on with the map, but all the lines behind them in the trailer here when they were fighting each other looked like the same markings that you see inside the world between worlds. So a lot of people were like, wait a minute, are they inside the world between worlds? And obviously they weren't in this scene, but it looks like something was happening, like some force energy was in play that opened a gate to the world between worlds, and that's how Ahsoka was pulled in when she fell off the cliff. The whole idea, though, is that Ahsoka is going to have to make the hard choice and not pull Anakin Skywalker through time to avoid the whole Darth Vader of it all, just like she wanted Sabine to destroy the map to prevent Thrawn's chances from coming back. Mostly because changing the past that much by literally pulling Anakin Skywalker through time could cause something even worse to happen in present day, because he might have never killed the Emperor. Things with the Emperor might have gotten even worse, especially with the second Death Star. Time travel mostly creates more problems than it solves. Like, everybody saw either the Flash TV series or the Flash movie. Like, pull out all the Flash memes. Sure is a nice timeline. Be a shame if someone messed that up. Just make it the Star Wars edition of that. Then we get the scene of Hu Yang versus the HK droid. He's got a little fight in him, like he's not totally helpless like C-3PO. We get to see some of Sabine's Mandalorian skills, more practical fighting skills. She uses a lot of the same weapons and gear as the regular Mandalorians like Bo-Katan and Mando. She's got her twin blasters from Star Wars Rebels, her grappling hook, but this time they also show you how both she and Ahsoka's abilities work together. Her slicing the mercenary in half with her lightsaber as Sabine draws him in with the grappling hook. That was what Hu Yang was talking about when he said that they always do better when they work together, when they stay together. Gonna be kind of hard now that Sabine is on her way to the other galaxy and Ahsoka is stuck in this world between worlds, sort of outside of time and space. They reference Hera again, and it was pretty predictable what was going to happen. Like, they do get a hold of her, and she calls an audible using Carson Teva, who comes back in another cameo scene, to take a squad of X-Wings to the planet, making a very literal Star Wars Rebels reference. Once a rebel, always a rebel. This time they take the Ghost ship, the full Ghost from Star Wars Rebels. The Phantom that she just used in the earlier episode is docked on the rear part of the Ghost. When they take off, they also call her Phoenix Leader. I think that's meant to be a reference to Phoenix Cell from Star Wars Rebels, because all the Star Wars Rebels characters were part of Phoenix Cell. You also notice that Jason is there with her, and she references him eventually becoming a general in the New Republic fleet. That would basically be during the events of the sequel movies. We'll see, like, they haven't really explained what happened with Jason during that time period, just because they didn't use a lot of the animated characters during the sequel movies. There was a brief voiceover from Ashley Eckstein's version of Ahsoka during Rise of Skywalker, but that's about as close as we got. When we see Baylan arguing with Morgan Elsbeth about their hyperspace calculations and how hard it's going to be to actually make the jump, he claims they'll be lost to the void if they're even a little bit off. He's talking about the void between galaxies, because it's basically a bunch of nothingness. This is actually a real-world thing. Like, space is full of a lot of emptiness. Like, most of space is literally empty. The distance between galaxies, though, is incredibly vast. Like, there's no planets, no asteroids, no space dust, nothing.
Have faith.
Faith. I lost that a long time ago.
And when he says he lost faith a long time ago, that's also a reference to leaving the Jedi Order and turning to the dark side after Order 66. He lost faith in the Jedi Order a long time ago. They're trying to draw a lot of parallels between Ahsoka because she left the Jedi Order, and also Anakin Skywalker because he also kind of left the Jedi Order when he fell to the dark side. Morgan Elsbeth uses her Nightsister force powers to activate the map again and calculate the hyperspace coordinates. That's what Baylan means when he says witchcraft. He's talking about Nightsister force abilities because they're literally called force witches. They have a bit of a funny moment when Ahsoka and Sabine engage Marrok and Shin Hati in combat. Like, they have these wry smiles between a couple of them, like Shin Hati very excited to fight Sabine again, and Ahsoka also smiling at Marrok in that wry way, like, oh, I'm gonna have fun destroying you. Early on, they mostly focus on Ahsoka versus Marrok, and she's only using one of her lightsabers this time because she only needs one. The whole idea is that she's well versed in all forms of lightsaber combat, so she's equally as deadly or as effective with one lightsaber as she is with two. The other thing going on here too, like where she lifts the lightsaber above her head and just holds it there, that's also meant to be the same form that Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan used during the prequels. Like Master, like Padawan. Dave Filoni just laying more Anakin Skywalker prequel references in here all along the way. The whole thing with Marrok's Inquisitor lightsaber spinning is also something they used during Rebels. They also use it during the Obi-Wan Kenobi series too. All Inquisitor lightsabers can do that. But here's the thing though, instead of completely answering all of our Marrok questions, they almost raise more questions because when she slices through him, he just turns into dust. So this is the important distinction. He's not turning into a Force Ghost because you see Ash, when you turn into Force Ghost, your body literally just turns into nothingness. Sith and other Dark Jedi also cannot become Force Ghosts either. This is actually what's going on with him, and you actually have to rewatch the scene a couple times, and you have to be watching it on a pretty decent monitor. Like if you're watching a potato quality version of the episode, you might not see what's actually happening. When all the smoke starts billowing out of him, there's a green tinge to it, so I think the idea is that Morgan Elsbeth used her Nightsister powers to resurrect a Force user and just stuff him in this armor. So Marrok may have actually been a Sith Inquisitor at one point, but it's probably somebody who died and they just resurrected using her Nightsister powers because that's a very common thing that they can do. Even if you didn't watch all the Clone Wars episodes, if you played Jedi Survivor or Jedi Fallen Order, they kind of get into this with Merrin's Nightsister powers resurrecting the dead, basically. Now the question is, who was Marrok? Like, was he a version of Darth Maul who died at some point? Because Darth Maul was born to a Nightsister, this woman here. Sam Witwer could have been playing his voice because Sam Witwer was the voice of Darth Maul, so he did a lot of this kind of stuff, Nightsister adjacent type of stuff. Let me know in the comments, if Marrok was resurrected using Nightsister powers, who do you think he was before he died? Like, is it simply what you see is what you get? Like, was he just Marrok before this? He wasn't anybody special. If you thought there were crazy Marrok theories before this, just wait till after this episode. A lot of people had their Starkiller theories, their Ezra Bridger theories. I feel like those are all invalid now. Like, he wasn't Starkiller, and he's not a dark version of Ezra or a clone of Ezra somehow. They might answer some more questions in the next couple of weeks. We'll see about that, because there's still lots of questions with the Baylan Skoll character just in general. You get to see Dave Filoni laughing at everybody and all their Marrok theories behind the scenes. Then we get our big Ahsoka versus Baylan Skoll scene. They've been teasing this in the trailers for a long time, so the whole idea is that he's waiting at the waypoint, and it actually looks a little bit different, but the map is still active here, so it's meant to be basically the same thing that was happening when Morgan Elsbeth was still here, but she went back to the ship. That's why he's the only person that's sitting here. Annie also tries to throw the idea in Ahsoka's face, like really throw her off, by claiming that she's largely responsible for everything, like blaming Order 66 and Anakin Skywalker turning to Darth Vader on her, leaving Anakin. That's what he means when he claims Ahsoka walked away and abandoned Anakin. And they actually kind of got into this in some of the more expanded material too. The whole idea is that Ahsoka feels guilty about leaving Anakin when she left the Jedi Order and thinks, like internally thinks, that had she not left him, she could have actually been there to help him when he started to become afraid and see the Force visions about Padme dying. They've also got into this in a lot of other Star Wars and Darth Vader material. The idea is that Anakin felt so afraid, that's why he was so willing to believe what the Emperor was telling him, all the Kool-Aid that the Emperor was pouring for him. When really the Emperor was just trying to use Anakin to get rid of the Jedi and execute Order 66. Like, he would have told Anakin anything. They might address this a little bit when Ahsoka talks to Anakin in the World Between Worlds. The other important detail here, too, is that it sounds like Baylan Skoll knew that Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader the way that he talks about him, and that was actually a pretty big secret amongst the people in the Star Wars universe. Only a few people actually knew that Anakin Skywalker was Darth Vader. Baylan Skoll claims to her that he's trying to secure the future, something far greater. I know a lot of people wondering, what does that actually mean? I think the whole idea is that he has this grand vision for a new type of Jedi Order that's completely different from the old Jedi Order. And he's basically trying to use Thrawn to bring that about. Like, he feels like he can't do that with Luke Skywalker being around in the galaxy with his Jedi Academy. They haven't directly referenced Luke Skywalker's Jedi Academy or what Luke Skywalker is doing right now yet. That might wind up happening eventually. I think because they want to focus more on the Anakin Skywalker relationship with all this stuff that's happening right now. We'll see if Ahsoka winds up referencing talking to Luke Skywalker, being with him at his Jedi Academy recently when she talks to Anakin in next week's episode Inside the World Between Worlds. Their fight, though, plays out a little bit more like Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker's fight during Empire Strikes Back, like a much slower beginning with them kind of carefully circling around each other just a little bit. That's mostly because they're both so powerful. Like, Baylan Skoll was meant to be way more powerful than Marrok or anyone Ahsoka has faced before. His lightsaber is also meant to be way more hardcore, like it's huge compared to hers. Physically, he's also just way bigger and way stronger than her. He almost strikes her right off the cliff with his regular lightsaber strikes. It's a little bit like the relationship between Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber fighting style and Obi-Wan Kenobi's fighting style. Like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, very skilled, but Anakin Skywalker was a way more powerful fighter. When they cut away, you notice that the golden droids also refer to the waypoint as the henge, as in Stonehenge. Like, it's just another term for a structure like this. During their fight, you can see Ahsoka trying to maneuver their fight closer to the map so she can steal it and prevent them from calculating the rest of the hyperspace coordinates. They jump back to Sabine versus Shin Hati and show how she's still trying to use the Force, but having a lot of trouble fighting her. She is able to trick her and get in the blaster shot, just fooling her into a sense of overconfidence. But when she was actually reaching out there, she was trying and failing to use the Force. Then they start cutting between the different fights a little bit quicker. Baylan continues to taunt Ahsoka with the memory of the people Anakin Skywalker killed when he was Darth Vader. And when she actually is able to grab the map and deactivate it, the thing that burns her hand, like the reason why it burns, is because of the Nightsisters' green flame energy. It's a type of force energy that they literally call magic, and only Nightsisters can wield. Sabine arrives to help her out, but Baylan strikes her so hard that she almost flies off the cliff, then eventually does push her off, but she gets pulled into the world between worlds. I'll talk about that in a second too, because some people are like, wait a minute, how did that happen? How did she make it into the world between worlds? And predictably, like maybe a lot of you actually called this early on, but Sabine also fails to destroy the map because Baylan Skoll basically gets his hooks in her and uses Ezra Bridger against her, or the memory of Ezra Bridger against her. The whole idea is that he's trying to use every trick in his bag to twist her to his side and convince her to eventually join the dark side. I think that's his ultimate goal, is he doesn't want to kill her, he wants to turn another person to the dark side. That's also why I think that he's trying to use the memory of Ahsoka against her, like twist her against Ahsoka, so that ultimately in the future, if he needs to, he'll be able to use Ahsoka as another ally to the dark side. They also use this scene to drop a bunch more exposition and backstory to the original trilogy and what happened to Sabine after the events of Star Wars Rebels. Baylan confirms that her real family, House Wren, Clan Wren, died during the Great Purge of Mandalore at the beginning of the original trilogy. When he says it was because Ahsoka didn't trust her, your master didn't trust you, we'll probably learn more about that in future episodes. But I think the idea they're implying is that Ahsoka prevented Sabine from going to help her family on Mandalore when that was going down, and they wound up dying when the Empire bombed the planet into slag. But the whole idea is that he's trying to get his hooks into her, he's trying to say anything that he can to twist her to the dark side so that she'll give him the map. True to his word, though, he does spare her, but like I said, I think he's trying to twist her against Ahsoka, like, see, I'm not going to go against my word, unlike your master. The other detail here, too, is that he talks about Ahsoka in past tense, so I think that he believes that Ahsoka is dead when she went off the cliff. Shin Hati also tries to kill Sabine, but is stopped by Baylan, so it sounds like they're just trying to continue their whole rivalry that they have into the rest of the series, where they just continue trying to kill each other. Hera arrives just in time to witness the hyperspace ring, even though they're going to try and stop it by literally just parking up, posting up right in front of it to prevent it from jumping into hyperspace. It doesn't work. That's probably just because the ships that they're using to try and actually block it aren't big enough. Maybe if they had a couple capital ships to do that, or maybe if they were a little bit closer to the actual ship. They got into this whole concept during the sequel trilogy, like actually jumping into hyperspace and not being able to travel through something without destroying both of you. You notice Baylan Skoll destroys the map once they have the full coordinates to prevent anyone from the New Republic from actually jumping between galaxies, but the thing is that the space whales actually know how to get between galaxies just fine, and Ezra Bridger is friend to the space whales. So a lot of people wondering if they're going to continue to use this new galaxy for more story in the Star Wars universe in future series or other movies or anything like that. They can totally do that using the actual space whales. There are a couple Easter eggs during some of these scenes, like Carson Teva's command lock S-foils in attack position is a line directly from A New Hope. They have Sabine and they jump to the other galaxy through hyperspace, which is predictable because we knew that Thrawn would eventually come back, so they were always going to probably be successful. But the whole idea is that when she goes to the other galaxy, she'll have a chance of seeing Ezra Bridger, so they'll answer what happened to him in this time gap. There's so many questions about what happened to Ezra. I don't think that he went dark or anything like that, but I am expecting a couple big twists. When they jump into hyperspace, Hera makes that oh crap face, like what are we going to do now? Jason also says, I have a bad feeling about this, which is a line that many people in Star Wars have uttered. It's also confirmation that he's Force sensitive, like he's sensing the coming danger in the Force. Hu Yang is still on the planet, so at some point Ahsoka is going to make it out of the world between worlds and back to her ship. But then they transition to Ahsoka in the world between worlds, and even though she looks kind of confused when she wakes up in there, she instantly recognizes where she is because she remembers what it was to be in the world between worlds when Ezra saved her and pulled her through time from the Sith temple.
This place is ancient, like a world between worlds.
The world between worlds is sort of this space in the Force that exists out of time and space, so you can literally go anywhere in time and space just through these different portals. The idea, though, is that the gateways that Ezra Bridger was able to use are very rare, like they appear all over the galaxy, but they're super rare, and the gateways themselves look a little bit like the star charts inside the alien map here from the ancient Rakata Empire. So a lot of people wondering, how did she wind up in the world between worlds, because we didn't see an actual gateway, like she didn't fall through a gateway. It might have had something to do with the Force energy and the way that the actual map works, like it probably opened a gateway to the world between worlds. But then they pay off one of the longest running fan theories that we've had since we heard that Ahsoka was going to be a series. Oh my gosh, they're going to do an Anakin Skywalker cameo, and he's going to call her Snips, just like the animated series.
This is where the fun begins. I can't get much closer, Sky Guy.
I knew you'd get here, Snips. Eventually.
Hello, Snips. I didn't expect to see you so soon.
That was actually the first thing she heard when she's facing away and just hears his voice, and it just says hello snips in the background, and she's like, wait, what? Master? She calls him Master first until she turns around in the smile of recognition on her face and calls him Anakin. Then as it fades to the credits, the Darth Vader theme music, much darker theme music, starts to play. So the whole idea is what's actually happening in this scene. Like, why is Anakin appearing to her? Is it just Force Ghost Anakin appearing through the Force to give her a bit of a pep talk on her way to try and stop Thrawn? And are they going to tease her briefly, maybe for like a brief hot second, thinking about trying to use the world between worlds, time travel, to save Anakin Skywalker from becoming Darth Vader? Most of us fans would just be happy if they spent all of episode 5 with just the two of them talking to each other in a conversation, just an hour-long conversation inside the world between worlds. Let me know in the comments, what do you think they're actually going to talk about, and will they reference Luke Skywalker or what happened during Order 66? There are probably a couple things that they'll brush on, like a lot of shared history in the previous movies, in the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels. But this was awesome. I was so happy that they finally paid this off, and they didn't wait till like the very end of the series, like they did with Obi-Wan Kenobi, to have that big Force Ghost cameo scene. Now this makes you wonder, if they're doing this halfway through the series, what are they going to be doing in the next couple of episodes? Like, how will things get even crazier? The other interesting thing here too, like all those Sam Witwer theories about him being a version of Marrok, is that he is credited in the additional voices dialogue scene. So does that confirm that he was meant to be the voice of Marrok? Because his voice in the last episode did sound a lot like Marrok's voice.
As you wish.
Any sign of them?
Nothing.
Discuss the concept of Starkiller as an Inquisitor. Like, well, I know that Dave at one point, when he was doing Star Wars Rebels, thought about including him as an Inquisitor.
Maybe it was one of those things where he was just doing the James Earl Jones thing and he was just playing the actual voice for the character, and they just had a stunt actor on set doing the physical performance, kind of the way they do the Mandalorian character with Pedro Pascal in the stunt actors on set. There's so much to talk about during this episode, like so many theories and questions born from what happened. Like, what happened to Marrok really, and what's going on with Anakin Skywalker in the world between worlds? What'll probably happen though is that we'll see Thrawn in episode 5, like they'll pay that off, but a lot of the episode will be Snips and Sky Guy just hanging out talking about old times. Don't worry, I will do a bunch of Anakin Skywalker bonus videos this week. There's so much to talk about. Post all your reactions and your theories in the comments, and if there are any Easter eggs or references in the episode that I didn't talk about in the video, just write them below in the comments. My episode 5 trailer video will post in the next day or so too. Click here for that. I'll update the link as soon as I post that, and click here for all my other Ahsoka videos. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.